If you've got an acoustic drum set and you want to add electronic elements to sort of expand that sound palette, here's 5 different things you can do to make your drum set a hybrid. What's up? Justin here, welcome to 65 Drums, the place to keep on top of all things electronic drum related. So this is the way a lot of drumming is going. Not using an all acoustic drum set, not just using an all electronic drum set, but a hybrid, a sort of a blending of the two things. So here are 5 things you can do to add electronic elements to your acoustic drum set to add more sounds to your playing. So number 1 is buying a multipad. This is a very, very popular way to expand that sound palette of your acoustic drum set. So probably the top of the field is the Roland SPDSX or the Roland Octapad. Now the way those two pads break down is that the Roland Octapad is basically a sound bank of a lot of different sounds you can add to your drum set. But the Roland SPDSX pad, that is for adding samples to your drum set. The problem with both of those options is that they're pretty expensive, ranging somewhere around $700-800 bucks. You can buy them used on eBay for less than that, but it's still going to be a little bit pricey. Now, Roland does have a cheaper option, the SPD1 Wave pad. That's just a small pad like the size of a cowbell if you want to add just a handful of samples to your playing, but that's still going to be 250 bucks brand new. Now, like always, Alesis has cheaper options to the Roland products. So you can buy the Alesis Sample Pad Pro for about $270, or you can buy the Alesis Sample Pad, and that's coming in at about 160 bucks. I found it used as a refurbished sample pad on eBay for about 130 bucks if you want to go even cheaper than that. I've played the Alesis Sample Pad Pro. I really do like it. I think it's great for the money. I just wish that the load times between sound sets was a little bit shorter. But regardless, all the products I mentioned, they're great for really increasing the number of sounds that you can get out of your acoustic drum set. And of course, you can record your own sounds. Let's say you want to record a chord progression and assign that to one of the pads, and then record a different chord progression and then assign it to a different pad. It's really cool because you can do this one-man band thing with one of these Sample Pad Pros. It's kind of like that guitar friend of yours he has, a jam man, where he's just doing every single thing by himself. That's basically what you can do with a Sample Pad Pro or a Roland pad. So that's idea number 1, add a multi-pad to your acoustic setup. The second idea ties in with that multi-pad. If you buy a multi-pad, you can actually plug in extra drums to it. So for example, you could add a side snare. You could mount this onto a mini drum rack, or you can just mount it to a cymbal, or you can put it on a dedicated snare stand, and now you have a side snare. You can make this whatever you want. You can make it an 808 sound, you can make it an EDM sound, you can make it a dubstep snare sound. You can really assign whatever you want. You could do one of those backwards washing crash cymbal sounds if you want. The sound options are endless when you use a side snare. When you have an acoustic side snare, you basically have one sound that you can tune up and down. Now, the third thing you can do to add electronic elements to your setup is to use drum triggers. So this one right here is a Roland RT30 snare trigger. So this has 2 zones on it, drum head and drum rim sensors. And you can clip this onto your acoustic drums. Now, here's the problem. You're going to have to do some dampening to your acoustic drum heads because when they vibrate too much, you'll get false triggers going to the drum module or the drum multi-pad, so keep that in mind. But this is really cool. Bands all over the world are using triggers like this one from Roland. The D-drum triggers are very, very popular for this. And the idea is that you can plug this straight into that multi-pad or a drum module, whatever it is you want to do. And so this way you can layer sounds. So if you want to have electronic sounding elements added to your acoustic drums and sort of mix it together, if you're going for that 80s sound, you can add 80s sounds to your kick drum, to your snare. If you want the more, whatever, rap sounds, EDM sounds, dubstep sounds, whatever you want, there's a lot of cool sound combinations that happen when you mix acoustic sound with a third-party sound. But what if all you're looking for is a kick drum sound? You don't want to mess around with drum triggers and dialing in the settings and getting the correct muffling and all that crap. You just want a really cool electronic kick drum sound. You can buy a dedicated kick drum pad and just have it to the right of your acoustic kick drum, something like a Roland KD9. Just buy a really cheap kick drum pedal and you're good to go. Now, here's the thing. You can either run that kick drum pad to that multi-pad that you bought earlier, or you can buy a dedicated small drum module that's really cheap, like a Roland TM2. The Roland TM2 is pretty much designed for these, hybrid setups where you're only using a handful of electronic drum elements and mostly acoustic drum elements. So it's a great drum module for that sort of thing. And then finally, idea number 5 is just to buy something like an electronic cowbell or a Roland bar trigger. So the idea for this is that maybe you don't want to have an extra snare stand, an extra snare pad, or an extra kick drum pad and all these drum triggers and all these wires. What if you just wanted to have the simplest setup possible? What you could do is just go buy an electronic cowbell. That way you can assign whatever sound you want to it. You have that extra tone flexibility there, but it doesn't take up that much space. One option here is to buy something like the Roland bar trigger. Now you'll need a small drum module for this, like the Roland TM2 drum module, or you could buy something like an electronic cowbell from Enfused. Now those were 5 quick ideas. There are a ton of ways to incorporate electronic drums into your setup. Like for example, Aquarian sells acoustic drum heads that have a trigger built inside them. So that's a really cool way to add electronic drums to your setup as well and still have that acoustic feel and not messing around with drum triggers. There are tons of possibilities out there. Just look around, you'll notice more and more all the cool possibilities that happen when you start using electronic drum elements with your acoustic drums. Just take a look at someone like Neil Peart. He's using tons of Roland pads in his acoustic drum monster setup and really does some cool effects with it. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video useful, interesting. I will see you guys in a few.